Horror movies don't hit like they used to. Or maybe we're just getting old, I don't know. The last horror movie I watched was The Nun, and honestly, it was only mildly scary. I remember watching it with my auntie, and she had this ice cold look on her face from the beginning to the end. But some years before that, I watched Insidious 1 through 3, and I had to pee like 4 times for each one. So I went online and did some research on how to write a proper horror movie, and one point really stood out to me. Drawing on personal fears, experiences, and observations will make your horror story feel more real to the audience. And that got me thinking. One of my personal fears is causing pain to the people that are close to me. One of my personal experiences is getting into arguments with these same people that are close to me. And one of my personal observations is if these people continue to test me, I may just go crazy and give in to the pressure. Do you see where I'm going with this? No? Stick around to the end to find out. After many brainstorms, stress eating, and sleepless nights, I finally came up with a script. But first, let's introduce our characters. Bird, Armani, Eli, Johnny, Paso, Sterling, AK, and Trophyless. Before I proceed, I'm sure you noticed that there are no girls in the lineup, and I'll tell you why. First of all, there was Banana, Big Mama, and Sweet Life. Banana spent most of her college days in her room, so I can't say much about her. Big Mama was always somewhere, either around the hostel compound or at a friend's place or something, so also barely any information on her. Sweet Life was booed up. I guess you know how that goes. Now, the scene for a horror movie would be the hostel I stayed in back in college. This hostel had 2 identical buildings in the same compound, and I, along with all the characters I mentioned earlier, stayed in the right one. There were 4 2-bedroom flats upstairs, and the rooms downstairs and in the left building were all single self-con rooms. Sterling and AK rented out one of the 2-bedroom flats, and he also had a PS4, so we spent most of our days in there playing FIFA. Trophyless, Eli, Paso, and Johnny Boy rented out the other 2-bedroom flat. I rented out a room downstairs. Bird and Amani rented out the room beside mine. And now that we know our characters, let's get into the movie. We would all be chilling in Sterling and AK's apartment playing FIFA as usual, and AK was the best among us, so he'd probably whoop all our asses. We'd play for hours, and each time I would come close, but I'd ultimately lose. Sterling would probably leave the apartment to go eat something elsewhere in silence, so he wouldn't have to share. Trophyless, Eli, and Johnny had a habit of borrowing my utensils and not return them. Bird and Amani would get snacks and not get any from me. And as for Paso, well, he'd never do me dirty, so he's good. As you can see, now I have a motive to attack these people. And just so you know, these things actually happened in real time, so I'm not making things up. And some of you may say that those reasons are not good enough, but I've seen stories of people getting down for way less. Later that night, I would begin. Now, in all sincerity, if I was a killer in this setting, I'd go for Armani first, because his mustache is bigger than mine and that gets me really pissed off. He's also next door, so I guess it's more convenient. After I take out Armani, Bird would be alerted and he'll run upstairs to inform the others. It's nighttime, so the gates are locked and there's barbed wires on the fence, so getting out would be a little difficult for our lovely victims. When Bird gets upstairs, he would knock on the first apartment door and likely get no answer before noticing lights coming from Sterling and AK's apartment. He would get in, inform them of this mysterious killer, and they would immediately lock the door and turn the game off. Thankfully, everyone is there. After a while, I would knock on the door and ask them to open it up for me, and they would. Why, you may ask? Because Bird didn't tell them I was the killer. He didn't know it was me. Now, before we proceed, let's take inventory of how many people we have left. Sterling, AK, Bird, Trophyless, Paso, Eli, and Johnny. 7 people just waiting to get got. Now that I'm in, I must be careful not to raise suspicion, so I'll make small talk. What's going on? Why are you guys so tense? Bro, someone just killed Armani. Oh my goodness, are you serious? Oh my god, I can't believe it. By this time, AK would be in his room chilling and eating a snack because somehow he's cool with these kind of situations. I would hang around in the room until he had to use the bathroom, and then I would poison his snack. The rat poison I would take with me while I was still downstairs. Normally, AK would be on high alert, but not now, because I blended in successfully. I would put in just enough poison to make him go slowly, not trying to raise any alarms. Now, we have just Sterling, Bird, Trophyless, Maso, Eli, and Johnny. Remember that it's nighttime, and everybody is going to start falling asleep real soon, but not Sterling, so I must take him out next. By this time, Trophyless would be long gone, as well as Eli, Johnny, and Bird. Maso would be getting drowsy around this time, so he would go to AK's room and join him. I would go to Sterling's room and act natural until I notice him dozing off. Then I would lock the door and finish the job with a pillow. That leaves Bird, Trophyless, Paso, Eli, and Johnny. After taking out Sterling, I would go back to the sitting room where the others are sleeping, but only Bird and Trophyless would be there. I would simply pour the remaining rat poison into their mouths and let time do the rest. Brian, what are you doing? Oh boy. Turns out Eli and Johnny were there the whole time, but I didn't notice them because of how dark their skin complexion is. Eli would attack me while Johnny tried to escape. As Eli attacks, I would defend myself and probably break a finger or dislocate his shoulder, so he'd have some pain to think about. Then I'd stab his throat before he can scream. At this point, Johnny would still be struggling with the door because sometimes that door can really be an up. As Johnny turns around to see the horror, I would grab his neck and strangle him. Paso sleeps really deep, so I'm not too worried, but not today. He would be woken by the struggles. Brian, why would you do this? Run away and don't look back. So that's my horror movie script. Tell me what you think about it, and I'll see you on the next video.